Good evening. Welcome to the Historic Review Board for Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
All right. Board Member Lawrence?
Present.
Board Member Fulton?
Present.
Board Member Edgar?
Here.
And Chair Powell, and I previously realized my microphone wasn't on, so I indicated Board Member Lawrence, Fulkerson, and Edgar are here.
Here. All right. Do we have any public comments that we have?
We don't have any public comments for items not on the agenda.
Okay, none at all. Great. All right, let's move on into the public hearings for GLUA 25-00044 and HR 25-00012 at 314 High Street. I will read our opening statement. Okay, we will now commence the public hearing on agenda item number 3. And this is for, as I said, GLUA 25-44 and HR 25-12, 314 High Street. It is a request for preservation incentive, request to rebuild or reconfigure an existing garage. The criteria for the approval of a land action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the back of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so at this time. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted completed forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant, then testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, and then rebuttal by the applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which this person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with a previous speaker's comments. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing, either orally or in writing, precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standards contained in ORS 197.763. At this time, I'll ask, do any board members have a conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application, and have you visited the site? I'll start with you, Mr. Eckler.
I have visited the site. I have no conflicts of interest or no ex parte.
Julia?
No ex parte contact, and I have not visited the site.
Okay, Gordon?
No conflict of interest, no ex parte contact, and I have visited the site.
Great. I also have visited the site, and I have no conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application. Anybody in the audience wish to provide a comment or challenge conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application? Seeing none, we will move forward. And it looks like it's Melissa.
Hello. My name is Melissa Lopez. I am the assistant planner assigned to this. So the summary of requests for this application is to reconstruct a currently attached garage with a proposed expansion of 57 square feet in length, and to relocate the attachment from the rear of the garage to the front. The attachment location would replace the existing side porch and create a more symmetrical and balanced roof line. We are requesting the granting of a preservation incentive to locate the garage at the existing location with the current side yard setback of 2 feet 3 inches, where the 5 feet is the required setback of the underlying zone. The preservation incentive wouldn't be necessary if the garage was not in such disrepair, but since there is going to be a demolition first, it's going to be removed and reconstructed, and the applicant is requesting that they may maintain that reduced setback since the proposal does not increase the width of the reconstructed garage. So basically, to summarize, there is some extensive water damage to the existing garage due to the poorly designed roof and side porch structure. The garage is going to be removed and rebuilt. We would see this in principle as a new construction, which also allows the application to be eligible for that preservation incentive. The proposal is going to include an alternate attachment location with minimal increase in length to support the usability of the garage for modern vehicles, while also maintaining the compatibility of the design. The net difference has no impact on the existing house or any new impact on the non-designated abutting property at 316 High Street. The remaining abutting properties are locally designated, though staff finds that the garage design and location is not going to have any additional impact on the abutting resources or the McLaughlin Conservation District as a whole, with the conditions provided. We are seeking direction from the Historic Review Board to address comments that were related to the eaves and the height of the proposed structure. The public comments that we received from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association was that the photos indicate the eaves of the existing garage are very close and even possibly overlapping that of the abutting property at 316 High Street. It's imperative that the structures and fences be shown on existing and proposed plans, elevation and 3D rendering drawings, showing the distances between these structures. This applies to any other adjoining properties that may be similarly affected. There was also a comment brought up for the structure needs to be shown on the south elevation drawing, as it appears it will protrude over existing home and be visible from that direction. We have included some conditions to address, or actually, excuse me, Board Member Green also made a comment, as he is not here tonight. So I'm just going to read his comment out. In my view, the design presented is a thoughtful and appropriate approach to achieving a pleasing and functional improvement to the property within the described constraints. Without opportunity to visit the site, I can see in the photos the concerns mentioned regarding eave overhangs, and while it may be more architecturally suitable for them to match the existing building, the proximity of the neighboring structure and possible constraints for fire-resistant details the building department will likely require, it seems the narrower overhangs are the only viable approach. The one question I would have for the applicant, if I was available to participate, would be the possibility of an intermediate floor level in the connecting link to lower the roof line somewhat. That would accomplish better height-width proportionality to the front garage face and subordinate it a bit to the main residence. I feel the gutter line should match or offset minimum 8-inch to avoid the appearance of a near miss. That said, I don't think functionality should be unduly compromised to accomplish the architectural change. As such, I'm supportive of approval with staff noted conditions and possible additional architectural change I suggested. So the site location is shown here at 314 High Street. This is the view from the front. The next one is just showing the view kind of still from the front, but a side angle where you can see the side porch that would be removed and replaced. And also showing that the purple shaded areas are the designated structures, 314 being non-designated, and the abutting property at 316 is also non-designated. The next slide is showing the existing site with a 3D rendering of what the site is now, the site plan for what's currently existing, and also the demolition plan to show the elevations of what's current. Next slide. The next slide is also showing the existing roof and drainage concerns, giving some evidence of disrepair due to the way that the roof is structured. And the next slide is the proposed site plan, so a 3D rendering of what we are proposing, and the site plan of showing where the extra length, that 57 square feet, is going in the rear, and the new attachment location. And the next slide will give you some proposed elevations. So it does show, you can see where the height has gone up a little bit. There's about a 3-foot height change. The next slide, for the eave concerns, there was just they submitted basically where the existing eaves are to show that the existing eaves are 1 foot 6 inches, which is about 9 inches from the property line. And the proposal is shortening those eaves to 6 inches, and that'll give us that'll give them 1 foot and 11 inches to the property line. So there's actually they're gaining 2 inches of setback, where the existing is 2 feet 3 inches to property line, and the current is 2 foot 5 inches. So the conditions that we've assigned to this is that the applicant must obtain all necessary permits for the proposed construction. The development is approved based on the proposed eaves being no closer to the neighboring property line than the existing garage eaves. If the proposed garage eaves extend farther than the existing eaves, the applicant shall revise the design to set back the building without reducing the eaves. Number 3 is the approval of the preservation incentive for the reconfiguration of the existing garage is based on the proposed compatible materials of the application. Any changes to materials or location would be subject to a new historic review. And at this time, the options are to approve the proposal with the conditions provided, which is what staff is recommending. Approve the proposal with modified conditions and provide revised findings. Deny the proposal and provide revised findings, or continue the hearing and request more information.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we'll call up the applicant if they'd like to make a statement, presentation. And if you'll switch on your mic there should be a little button.
And I'm happy to move a slide if it's helpful in the conversation.
I don't think I have a lot to say. I wasn't actually prepared. I'm the architect for the project. To actually do a presentation, I was assuming we're mostly here for answering questions.
Can you quickly state your name for the record?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Molly McGowan. I'm here as a representative for Susie Stevens, the homeowner. And I don't actually have a lot to add, and so not to waste your time with redundancy. Basically, just the garage is in terrible shape. We're trying to rebuild it. We're moving it back and shortening the eaves to minimize the impact. We want a little bit of extra space in the back of the garage so that an actual modern car can fit inside of it. But we're doing that all into the backyard space so that there's minimal change from the street front. And then, again, trying to enclose what is currently the side porch so that you can go from the garage to the house without having to go outside. Just, again, trying to get a slightly more, modern usage from the updated garage without making a substantial impact on the aesthetic of the property.
Okay. I apologize, I did not ask for questions of staff before I called you up. I apologize for that. And at this time, I can ask that. If anybody has questions of staff before we have questions of the applicant, I apologize for missing that. Nope, okay. Now, do we have any questions for the applicant?
So, just so I'm understanding this right, the reduction in the eaves, that was just for, was that a zoning issue? Or like a?
That was just a voluntary choice so that we could get the eaves to be basically like about 2 feet back from the property line, because that's usually a minimum, is like 2 or 3 feet when you're getting a setback, trying to get, just it's a gesture in that we understand we're raising the height. And so as we are increasing that a little bit, we are trying to also make it a little bit further from the property line to reduce that impact.
Okay. But there's no real necessary
No, I mean, I think,
function to it.
no, I think in a vacuum, we'd prefer to have the larger eave. It's better from a weatherproofing standpoint, and it's certainly more accurate to the character of the property, but it does actually make the building, in order to keep the alignment of the gutters all the way around, it actually makes the building even taller. And again, increases the encroachment on the adjacent property.
Okay.
But, we certainly don't mind the extra height and the larger eaves from, again, a weatherproofing standpoint and an aesthetic standpoint, but.
Right. The neighbors, the property owners, have they made remarks about like wanting that visibility or like with the increased height?
I have not heard anything directly.
So I guess I'm just asking, I guess that was a personal choice to reduce the eaves, just because you thought that
Yeah.
would be kinder to the neighbors?
Yes.
And, okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question. Is the current garage have a concrete foundation or floor?
Yes.
And so I noticed in the application that there will be no major dirt or earth movement because we need to get letters from, the tribes, et cetera.
Correct.
So are you going to relay a pad or?
Yeah.
You will?
The intent is to put another, just a slab on grade with a turn down footing. There would not be minimal ground disturbance, no deep footings. It's mostly just because the slab that's there is, slab is a generous term. We have no idea the thickness. It's, crumbled and cracked, and, there's no reinforcement and probably no footing of any kind anywhere.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant?
The only question I have would be, but I don't know if it's really applicable to what we're talking about right now, is the siding and how you're planning to match up what the siding, currently it has shake siding on the existing house. And I'm just kind of curious as what the plan was for siding on it.
The plan is to do cedar shingle siding to match. The contractor is confident that he can get a match, and then it'll all be painted, repainted as a part of the project. I think the only point, and just to clarify, actually, the only point where it's different is there's a small amount of lap siding on the attachment between the garage and the existing house.
There we go. So you're going to remove the smaller window at in the attic eave there at the pitch of the roof? I think the existing has a small window. There it is, yeah.
Oh, no, there's no window. I think maybe what you're seeing is a little corbel. Are you talking about in the garage?
No,
No, the primary structure, there's a window at the pitch underneath the eave on the facade.
in the house.
And then on your rendering, there isn't a window there.
Oh, that's just an oversight. That's
Okay.
that's staying.
Got it.
Sorry.
Got
It's-
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And since we have no one in the audience that would like to make any issues, I think we'll bring this up to the commission to discuss. Any comments, questions, issues?
None for me.
We have Mr. Green's comments. Is that something anybody wants to look at or discuss?
I read it last week and I reviewed it pretty thoroughly and I just don't see that there's any issue. Thank you. I don't see that there's any issue that we need to discuss with that. I think that there's some good commentary there, but moving forward with the project, I
Oh,
just
can
don't.
can you put your mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
And maybe
Sorry.
slightly
Yeah,
repeat
okay.
what you said?
Just reviewing what Board Member Green's comments were, I don't see that it's good insight, but I don't see that it really changes anything moving forward from my point of view, so.
Okay.
I'm taking a look at it. It really outlines the existing foundation, location, everything right down the line, except it's longer.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't see anything that I have any concern with the pitch of the roof or the size of anything in that regard. The only thing maybe you could do is put some decoration in the like a pseudo window at the top of the garage or something to give it some texture in that location. But this is to me a very simple slam dunk. It should be something, I don't know what we could find that would really change everything or anything.
Christina, can you go back to the rendering slide?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a side elevation one as well.
Let's see if I can find it.
Did I make that up?
Is this proposed?
I left my glasses in the car, so I'm really.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. There it is, here's proposed.
And we're keeping I know we're not here to necessarily discuss this, but we're keeping the double grouping of the windows as well, right? On the side, there's the two windows.
Yeah,
that are
as far as I know, I
paired.
think there's no proposal to remove windows on the main house. So if you see anything that lacks windows, it's just a streamlining of the rendering and the plans, but there's nothing proposed by the applicant of removing any windows. Basically, any alterations to the main house. It is really the revised connection and the new garage.
Got it, okay. Just wanted to make sure. I do know in looking at the historic inventory form that the side porch is original and the facade porch is not, is likely an addition. And that the garage itself is also original to the period of construction. So I'm a little hesitant to get rid of those original features, but I think that, yeah, I mean, you can see from the photos that the condition of the home, you know, the exterior cladding and in and around the foundation are deteriorating. So I guess it's just a matter of, do we think it's enough to merit, you know, change in demo and change in style and things like that? Because it will be a change in style. The wide eaves on a bungalow with some of these Craftsman features are character defining features of these types of homes. And so, you know, again, I'm a little hesitant to reduce those eaves, especially in a simple bungalow like this. There are so few character defining features, and I think you definitely did a great job in trying to bring the shingle cladding back into play, keeping the window groupings together, you know, all the things that you're trying to do to maintain that integrity. But the eaves are a big part of it too, so I'm a little on the fence, but could be talked into it about the reduction in the eaves and the.
Christina, can you change the slide back to the the straight on shot? The rendering, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. This one.
There we go. Yeah, thank you. So it's my understanding that when we spoke to the architect, that in order to create the eave set that we're talking about would create a roof height increase. I don't necessarily see that that's an issue. What do you think about that, Board Member Fulkerson?
You mean you don't think that the increased height is a hindrance to widening the eaves?
I really am leaning into what you're saying about the eave width.
Yeah.
And that's going to create a complication with the roof height. So.
Well, and it also impacts not just the eaves, but the slope looks to be impacted, and that's a big defining feature of a bungalow Craftsman, is a lower pitch slope or lower pitched roof form as opposed to a moderate pitch. And so I just think bringing that up and reducing the eaves, you're kind of scrapping the whole, you know, the character of the garage. I think that the house seems good. It's just the garage and the porch makes sense to me, the breezeway. You know, we all live in a rainy environment here, and it's really nice to be able to bring your groceries in and, you know, not get drenched. But when you bring it up like that and then the slope changes and then you're reducing the eaves, I mean, that is taking away the character defining features of the original garage. And I just want to go on record by saying some of these properties, what also makes them special is that there are these early examples of what we call a streetcar suburban streetscape. And so the garages actually do play a lot into the integrity of the historic integrity of the property, especially if they're original to the property. So I don't know, but I guess all that to say, I don't know that I'm a huge fan of reducing the eaves, but if it's a neighbor issue, that's why I was asking you that too.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So at the shot that I'm looking at in front of me with the neighboring property, staff, what is the setback issues that we're looking at here? Or what are, excuse me.
So it was brought up as a public comment from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association about the eaves and feeling like they were going to be overlapping now because of the height. The other structure on 316 High Street is also very close to the property line. So the larger eaves,
Yeah.
the larger eaves with the height could put them very close to each other.
Yeah, that was my question too, is that are we dealing with a neighbor, an encroachment issue?
Yeah, the neighbor didn't make any public comments. We have not heard anything from the neighbor.
I don't know.
I think that really, one, as Board Member Green was saying on his comment, it could run into a building permit situation. So it might be harder to get permits for it.
Right.
And also just both structures are going to be very close.
Right, because that neighboring house looks like the roof is a little taller, and then you're bringing that roof line up a little bit. So are they going to kind of meet each other? Because right now the slope is able to kind of dip underneath a little
Exactly.
bit of the neighbor's roof. So, yeah, I wonder if those will compete or,
It seems with the reduced eave, it would likely not, but with the larger eave, it may. I don't.
That would be reason to have a more limited eve because of that. And I think your point there is accurate. But when you take a look at the other house, neighboring house is right on the property line.
super close.
Are you talking about 312 or
316.
316, the other side?
Yeah, 316.
See, I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with you. If this were a standalone and we had the actual true
Right.
space that we need, I would agree with you that we shouldn't. But I mean, when I was looking at it, it was, I couldn't imagine that it was even legal. you
Right,
know.
it looks like it's gonna really just
Right,
like
and
abut that next
which is
property.
the question I brought up, is why, I mean, how is that even, currently, how is it legal? But it's happened a long time ago, so we have no control over it.
Right.
But to me, it seems, I'm going back and looking at it from a distance, and I'm thinking, you know, I think, that was my first thought, was maybe we should allow those eaves to be a little shorter. I mean, just for that situation, I would generally completely agree with you. I don't like to change the eaves ever.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. But in this case, I think it'd be reasonable.
Initially, I was 100,000% like, I have no comment, we're ready to go. But, you know, it was good commentary. So I maybe look at the picture and think, and then I started looking at the pictures again, and
Yeah.
I drive by the site daily, and I'm like, wait a second, it doesn't work if we don't make it fit.
Right, and the biggest thing is to make something functional too. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to provide continued use to historic properties. But so you're raising the roof was the argument to fit a vehicle inside?
We have to reintroduce public comment.
I'm sorry, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just,
Part of it is to fit a vehicle inside. Part of it is so low currently that you literally can't fit a door into a mudroom, like into the house, because it's
Yeah.
so low.
You don't have lights.
Yeah. So it just isn't possible. I mean, you could technically, I guess, have stairs, but then none of that would be usable space as a mudroom. It would just be garage.
Right.
So there is that, but also the extra height basically like gets us above the neighboring roof line. So it was kind of threefold. It makes the little like adjoining mudroom as like a space where you could put coats in a house that's already only like 700 square feet. So like instead of just garage space, or like space that's basically stairs. And like I said, gets us over the other eave and stepped back a little bit.
Right, it's tricky, it's a lot of
Yeah.
measurement.
So balancing, you know, kind of a lot of factors in this really, really limited space and site.
Right. Well, let me ask you, last question. Is if you, and this might be a question for construction colleagues as well, but could you add anything additional to widen the eaves without running up against that. I don't know the actual space between and how that's going to, but could there be a little more added? And I don't know how that affects the slope and all the other, the construction factors here, but could you add like 3 inches?
I would have to go back to the site and double check the actual measurements. Or back at home on my computer where I have those modeled, because I didn't have those in the drawings.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if anything, like if they can even just be increased slightly and we like meet in the middle with it, it might add that.
So the
character.
concern would be, as we extend the eaves,
Yeah.
you're dropping the plane where the gutter is attached to the roof.
Okay.
And as you work your way around the property, you would have a reduced level of gutter just on the garage, and visually from the front of the house, you would have a sight line, and then it would drop down for just the garage. And that would be far more obtrusive than the extension of the eaves. One thing begets another.
Right.
Where unless you raise the roof,
That's a lot of.
and
Yeah.
create that extension, you're dropping that plane down. So
Okay.
one thing always affects another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the bummer part of it. All right, I'm just seeing what options are available to us, and if none, then I will be satiated.
Since you're here, what's your plan for the garage door? All right, you've seen our garage. Do you have a plan for it? Is it an all-wood garage or?
I actually don't think we have specified that yet. I think we're mostly just thinking a wood garage door.
Okay, because we do have a garage door requirement.
There is. We reminded this is a non-designated resource, so you would be looking at garage door recommendations for new construction, unless the board wants to put a specific condition as it relates to the compatibility and the preservation incentive and such. But because it's a non-designated, you don't automatically need to meet the HRB policies.
I'm only saying that because it's a wood, it appears to be from where I was standing, a wood garage door, and I would like to maintain that.
Yeah, the intent is to duplicate all of the existing materials.
Well, you said that, but I just wanted to bring that,
Yep.
that was not part of that discussion, so
Yep.
that's great, thank you.
Well, maybe we could say, it looks like it's a 5-panel, 10 in total on the original structure. We could say, maintain 5, 10 panels on the door, and that's one little bit of character that could be, little things like that I think could be helpful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not that there's a lot of significance, I think, in the garage door, but,
Well, it is really.
Well, yeah,
Because-
yeah.
Because it showed itself right there to
Right.
me, and so that.
I just meant, I guess, design, but the material, I
Yeah.
totally, agree.
Well, even the design, it's front facing, so.
So,
Okay.
to me, the big question right now is should we continue with the idea of reducing the eaves to, and in my case, I think where it's sitting there's right on the property line, the other place, it's appropriate to have the narrow eaves in this case. And but that to me is the only big element that I can see there. And truthfully, to engineer, build, and create something, it's much easier to start from scratch than to try to do something off of what's already there that was done when there was no engineering.
Yeah.
So now it can be engineered correct, and done right. So it's, I would just move that we,
Hold on a second, let her.
Melissa does have a revised condition 3 to address the door, the garage
Okay.
door.
Okay, so condition 3 was the approval of the preservation incentive for the reconstruction reconfiguration of the existing garage based on the proposed compatible materials of the application. And I can add to that that the applicant must maintain a 5 to 10 panel garage door. And then any changes to materials or location would be subject to a new historic review. Does that sound?
That, as long, yeah, that addresses the material, so that's what my
Okay.
concern was.
Do you know what I think would help too, is maintaining the width of the trim around the door, the casing. So whatever that existing width is, because on bungalows and craftsmen, they're pretty wide, you know?
Windows right there.
Yeah, and just maintaining that on the new one because, and of course the rendering is just like a simple, we've been over that, simple rendering for now, but it might be nice and add a little bit more of a substantial look.
So instead of
To
inch and a
it.
half, you go to the full 5 to 6 inch.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem like it would impact anything construction-wise.
I believe it's noted trim to match.
Okay.
In the
Is it in there?
drawings.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Exterior trim and the corbels and everything is to match the existing, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Molly. Appreciate you coming up
Thank you.
again. Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll take it out to you.
Well, I move to approve the proposed what is, let me get the code right.
Yeah, hold on, it's right.
Yeah, you want to say
Okay.
revised conditions?
With
GLUA 25-00044 and HR 25-00012 as amended by staff. I just move for approval.
All right, do you have a second?
I second with revised conditions.
Okay. Board Member Lawrence?
Aye.
Board Member Fulkerson?
Aye.
Board Member Egger?
Aye.
Chair Powell?
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing it. All right.
All right. We're going to swap seats, just 1 second.
Oh, there it is. I'm looking all over for it. Okay. When you're ready.
All right, thank you, Chair Powell. I'm ready.
Okay, this is discussion on compatible change, new construction review in historic districts, HRB policies 13.7 and OMC 17.40 Redline draft review. And I guess we could talk about the following one also, as long as we're talking about it, the Biennium, oh no, that's work plan, never mind. Let's just go with that.
All right, thank you. Tonight, we're going to go over some of the revisions from last meeting, as well as some new red lines. This is for the compatible change projects that looks at new triggers for review for non-designated resources in the McLaughlin Conservation District when they are triggered. And a good example of one we just saw today, they were doing more than a 30% addition when you take everything down and rebuild it. So they were triggered. With the new revisions, there may be other things that trigger, but this is where we are. As you, just for everybody in the audience or online, this is a project the board has been working on over the last year. It was a work plan project. Last summer, the board put together a policy recommendation that went in front of the City Commission for kind of a recommendation to go through the legislative process. What the board is working on this fall is taking that policy memo and turning it into revisions to the HRB policy of accessory buildings, and then the new policy 13 for new small dwelling units on non-designated resources, which we reviewed last month, and we have some updates. as well as revisions to Chapter 1740, which is our historic district. So I'd like to kind of go over what we talked about last month, and then we can start to look at HRB Policy 7, which looks at our existing policy on accessory buildings, as well as changes to the Redline code. Kind of next steps, we have potentially review in November if there's something you want to bring back. We are scheduled for a city commission work session sometime in the new year. I don't have the date yet, but once we get that date finalized, board and staff will, at least 2 board members and staff will present to the city commission on the work we've done this fall. And then they'll have us move forward through the legislative hearing process, which goes in front of the planning commission and then the city commission to amend our development code. Board member Green did provide some additional comments, and I can review that. One thing I wanted to let the board know, HRB Policy 13, the new policy for small dwelling units, I was going to review that with our assistant planners, Melissa and Jude, and I was not able to get that completed. So I don't have their eyes on the ground. Can I talk through people over the phone on this? So you'll get that at the next month. So I don't have that kind of clear-eyed. And then the Redline code for Chapter 1740, I'm actually held off on our legal review on it, and I was going to wait to hear board direction, and then we'll go through kind of the legal review to see if there is anything that needs to change. But this was really just a implementation of the policy memo. So I can go through those 3 items, and Melissa's going to kind of show them on screen, and I can type your comments. Would you like me to overview Board Member Green's comments? I can
Yes,
do
please.
that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me open up that email. Okay, so his comment for HRB Policy 13, that's the new policy for new dwelling units. He said, I support the highlighted change clarification of 550 square foot, including porch, dormer proportions, no exterior stairs, percentage of window area. That was a question I asked the board, knowing that we are now including porch area. 500 square feet seemed a bit too small, since even a small porch would take a minimum of 50 square feet. So bumping that up to 550, knowing that we're counting the porches. He said, I would still prefer allowing more flexibility in the roof pitch, 6/12 through 10/12. And I'm questioning excluding oval glass entrance doors. Full disclosure, I have one, as I don't see them incompatible with architectural style common in the historic district. Regarding Policy 7, that is our existing policy for accessory buildings, allowing a little bit larger accessory building for non-designated resources. I like that, he said, yeah, I like the clarification change highlighted in the document. I do feel that the description should include studios, so some type of documentation that habitable structures are included in this policy, but not a dwelling unit. So you could put a habitable structure, which has always been the case. I think what Board Member Green is that it's helpful to actually say it in the policy. And then the last one, that's all I said. Oh, and then he noticed a Scribner error in Chapter 1740. So that is my overview of his comments. We can take Policy 13, Policy 7, and then the 1740 one by one if that's helpful, or I'm kind of back to the board. Melissa can bring it up and I can make any comments.
Well, I do have a question before I get to I lose it. He's talking about habitable. Interesting. I'd like the perception of the staff on this. Is that something that comes up? I mean,
Yes.
Habitable versus?
Yeah, people want to know, what does it mean? Can I enclose it and put light, can I run lights to it? Can I have it as an art studio? Could I have it as a bedroom? Those are, we don't differentiate. Building code will tell you what fire, life, safety things you need to do, but in planning, a non-dwelling unit can be habitable or non-habitable. It's just really, if it's habitable, then you're meeting additional building code requirements. And we really don't have a differentiation between non-habitable, for planning, between non-habitable, habitable, and dwelling unit. It is just dwelling unit, non-dwelling unit.
And see, to me, that's confusing. and if I were coming forward and I wanted to build a shed, and I was faced with, or a shed or a whatever, 550 square foot, and it was habitable or non-habitable or habitable in a dwelling unit, it seems confusing to me because a dwelling unit, it's habitable.
Right, habitable is really a building code issue. And so we really are more, is this structure a dwelling unit? Because then you're going to be a full dwelling unit and you'll be paying system development fees for a dwelling unit. You can rent it out, you can sell it. It's a full dwelling unit, it's separate from your house. If it is an accessory building, regardless if it's a storage shed or an art studio, it is part of your house. You can't sell it separately and you're not paying system development fees as a separate dwelling unit. So being habitable, that really is more related to the building code. And what you propose to put into the building code will have different requirements based on what you propose to put in it.
I suppose there's a lot to think about with that though, because like what if you put in an accessory structure as a builder and you don't follow this because you don't think that you think it's just habitable and not a dwelling unit, but then you want to convert down the line to it, but now there's a prohibitive cost involved or something like that. I don't know, but is it sticky to add that extra word? Are you like opening up a can of worms?
No, I think people ask. I mean, everything that I just said is what we say over the phone. So if clarification is better, I just want to know the habitable piece is not really kind of in the planning definition. It really lies in the nuts and bolts of the building code permit review.
Well, and that's my concern, is opening a can of worms, as you said. It's kind of like if you don't have it there, I mean, you're still going to have that discussion, but if you have it there, will that create more discussion? And does it make it harder for you?
I was going to say, is it going to make more work for you because now you're covering dwelling units and habitable, but I guess
we do it all the time.
Already do that.
We do it all the time.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think the key is, especially in the world of middle housing land division now, it's not just that you are paying system development fees, but you can now sell that unit as a separate entity. It can be split off and it can be sold, and someone can purchase that. And so there's a lot more incentives now to actually go through the dwelling unit process and pay the system development fees, and you can actually, you have to have separate services, and there are requirements by going through middle housing land division, but there is more benefit for actually making it a full dwelling unit. That before it was a little bit, if it was all on the same property and it was a mother-in-law suite, is it a dwelling unit, is it not? I mean, we deal with that all the time, but now you can separate it and sell it now.
Okay. All right, thanks.
You're saying too, and not the last question, you're saying too that if it were just a habitable unit, and this applied to it, that we would be able to regulate the design on that as well.
Okay, if you are building an accessory building,
Right.
that is not a dwelling unit, that falls under HRB policy 7, which basically says, meet HRB policy 7. Remember, there's a little bit higher, it's like 300 and something square feet. Above that, you're in new construction.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's basically just saying, we understand 200 square feet sometimes is a little too small, and do we really want to have a 255 square foot accessory building? And do we just want to let people go through the HRB process for non-designated resources?
Right.
And we now say I think it's a 310, I forget what it is. That is our level where it's big enough where we want to start putting aesthetic review over it.
Right. More design guidelines. And,
So it's really just an incentive, like you can build accessory buildings in your backyard with just a little bit higher threshold for non-designated resources.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Now, your question was, do you want to go through all these and then ask questions later?
We can go each one, and then maybe we can ask questions through each one is what I was thinking.
I think I'd prefer that. I don't know
Okay.
about you guys.
So
Okay,
would I.
great, thanks.
So where are we? I'm going to open up, is this HRB 13? Okay, let me open up 13, because I'll make any notes. Okay. So what you see in yellow were changes that were made from the September meeting. So the first one was pushing up to 550 square feet, acknowledging that porches are added. So that's a conversation you can have. we wanted to declare that unfinished materials, so no pressure treated or unfinished materials shall be visible. There was a conversation of that. And then we had the dormer size. So this is what I interpreted that the conversation was in September, just to remind everybody about how much dormers can you have on the wall plane through this, right, again, not having to come to the board. So we want to allow some dormers, but when is it too much that the board wants to see it? And it is a magic gray area line that the board is drawing. But what I wrote based on the conversation was the total width of all dormers cannot exceed 50% of the wall plane they run parallel to. The wall of the dormer must be at least 12 inches back from the exterior wall of the floor and 12 inches below the ridge line. So set it back. With no part of the dormer extending above the ridge line.
Christina, on these dormers still, I have a concern that we say that it has to be 12 inches below the ridge line where the dormer starts.
So where the roof of the dormer is below the ridge line of the house, so they aren't meeting each other.
We could not put it right at the peak of the roof and run. I see dormers on a lot of houses that come straight off the peak of the roof.
And that's true. I think this is this is the conversation of trying to make sure that we're not having a massing issue. And so, I mean, the problem is there's so many variations of design. And so HRB policy 13 is looking at, here is a type of dwelling unit you can build. And I think ensuring that is below the ridge line is some protection for the massing. Now, granted, shed dormers are a little more obvious that they go, and you can have some peak roof dormers, some gable dormers that are attached, but I think, to me, this is a reasonable protection, not to have too big of a dormer that's right up at the ridge line.
But engineering-wise, if I put a beam across the peak of the roof, and I can attach right to it, it's just simple. It cuts the cost and makes it a simple add-on.
Yeah.
And this 12 inches to me is not as productive as to the gain in trying to keep something cost-effective, and really, I think we're adding more difficulty than we need to there, making it 12 inches below.
Well, I think it's more historically accurate to be not level with the roof plane. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could go around town and probably find
I think
one.
It's 50-50.
But if it's 12 inches below the ridge line, then you're not going to have it coming off the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, this is a question, and I think
12 inches.
What Board Member Edgar is saying, is this too bespoke of a section of the policy? I know in the last meeting, there was a concern about too much dormers and what is too much. So this is a great time to have that conversation of what should be in policy 13 to put a sideboard on. When is there too much dormers?
Well, I would say if you look at a traditional craftsman house, and if you had a shed dormer on the front and it was the width of the house coming off the top, it's a second floor.
I
mean, it's a second floor.
It seems like 9 out of 10. Visually, I see it as the second floor.
But typically, in a more historically accurate, your shed dormer is going to be in off the sides and lower down, so it looks like a dormer as opposed to a second floor.
And I don't know that that's that much. From looking at buildings, and I haven't done any numerical counting or something like that, but I think it's close to 50-50, and I don't know that it's a big gain, but I think it does add to the cost in trying to do it, and makes it more difficult. And I don't know that that's the gain is enough to say that to put it 12 inches below. I just don't think the gain is there.
Well, I mean, you know, it's fine on a new design, you know, but I think to be historically accurate in a historic district, I think that we should err on that side as opposed to err on the other side. So if we're 50-50, I'd rather go to 50% with the 12 inch, right? I mean, to me, it makes more sense. It makes it more historically accurate. You're the architect. You know, you guys know, I'm not an architect, but to me, around the neighborhood, the McLaughlin neighborhood, there's, you know, you don't see a lot of those. You see mostly dormers coming off the 12 or 14 inches below. So I don't really see what you're talking about that much. Newer homes maybe, but that's not, you know, we're trying to integrate into the neighborhood and into a historic district. And that would be my concern, is to go too much away from that. It looks too modern to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big issue.
And again, like you said, I've seen a lot of cottages that have got the dorm, virtually the full front door, street view, close to, maybe just set back a little bit from the wall, from the bearing wall. But a lot of them are very massive, and they're part of creating the second floor.
Yeah, I'd have to see those, and, you know, then you're sticking, then I'd say build a second floor instead of a dormer, right? I mean, I don't know, I mean, that's, to me, I haven't seen a lot of those, so it's hard for me I have to visually see it. To me, I don't know, you may have seen more than I have, but it seems to me that, again, I'm more falling back on the historic accuracy. I'm falling back on, we're looking into a historic district that we're trying to, even though it's not designated, it'll be a new construction in a designated area.
I'm going to go down, I want to take a look at one in Kanema, right on next to the river, that was done close to Ganong Street. And the people have done a beautiful job of maintaining this one cottage home down there. But it has some big dorms on it. And I want to reassess what I see, and I will take I'd like to take an effort to reevaluate that based upon a real effort to go out and observe what's actually there. And I know if I'm in Portland and I'm looking around at some of the extensive cottage homes in through Portland, I would see some pretty massive dorms.
True, but it's a kind of a different, it's kind of a different architecture out there than it is here, in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You know, they're larger homes typically, where here we're more smaller homes,
yeah.
More compact homes. And I think making a dormer that size, again, make it a second floor and forget the dormer. I mean, if you're going to do that.
Can I make a recommendation?
You may.
All right, so just remind everybody, there's a 15-foot height, and that's measured at the midpoint, so depending on the boot, so you're not gonna probably get a full, this is a 1.5 story structure, right? So if you want more use out of that floor, you're probably putting dormers in, but maybe not, get up small. My recommendation, we can keep this, and maybe your homework between now and the November meeting is start taking a look at, we don't have, most of our dormers are on our bungalow style. I mean, most of our vernaculars don't have dormers. I mean, some have been added over time. So some dormers you may see are larger and might be 50s or 60s or 70s editions, but take a look at more of the structures that might have dormers that were added more in period, but maybe that's your homework between now and our November meeting is you can kind of keep this as is, but everyone grab pictures, maybe email me things you might see. I'm happy, I'll forward it on to everybody through BCC, and we can kind of go on a little reconnaissance tour of dormers, if that works.
I think that's a great idea, and I also think that it'd be nice to get some perspective from the home builders in our group to talk about the difficulty or the non-difficulty or the difficulty either way of putting a dormer 12 inches down and how is it cost effective
Yeah.
or not? I mean, those, I would like to hear that too.
So maybe between now and November, if Board Member Lawrence wants to kind of think about, maybe, and I'll let Board Member Green know if there's any insight, you don't have to do it right now, but if there's any insight you want to bring to the November meeting about dormers.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
My only comment about the dormers is, did we want to say the total amount? Is that in the language? Like, are we allowing 2 dormers to each roof slope or 1 dormer?
Oh, like it's 5 little baby dormers, probably
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, do we want to,
With a maximum of 2 dormers per slope or 1 dormer,
per slope or,
per roof plane?
yeah.
Do we say 1 dormer per roof plane or 2 dormers?
Yeah, I think we should definitely specify the individual slopes too, or the planes, you know?
Should that be a not greater than instead of a no more than?
With a maximum of
Yeah,
1
'cause you-
dormer per roof slope or 2 dormers per roof slope?
Well, I mean, if you had a really
Wide
large.
dormer, then
Yeah.
I would
One.
think 2 would be more,
But what if they did 2 wide ones? So like,
right?
yeah, there's.
Well, and
there's
my
a-
concern was that they would put 2 wide ones on either side of the slopes, right? And so then it looks like a completely different design almost, these dormers sticking out. So yeah, specifying how many per slope, I think would be helpful, but
Okay, so right now I have 2 with a maximum of 2 dormers per roof slope in our amended version you'll see next month. Is that what you're thinking of or something
then
different?
would that look like 4 dormers?
Could potentially be 4 dormers, yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Or you can say with no more than X total dormers.
I think we should just say 1 dormer.
Well, again, I mean, you're looking at the homes that were in this neighborhood.
And
One
this is, remember,
dormer.
a small 500.
But, you know, I would think a small dormer like that would be not even worth having.
That's what I'm saying. 2 small ones, it's like you're not gaining any square footage interior wide. You can't fit a bed in there,
So
you know?
one dormer per
One
roof
dormer,
slope?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've added that.
Okay, great.
All right, let's scroll down.
Beat that up.
There was addition of no exterior stairs to upper floors are allowed. And this is my attempt at using to talk about our existing single-family home design standards, and even our site plan design review looks at linear length of windows. We don't look at area, we just do linear. So if you have a 100-foot long length of your building, and we require 30% transparency, then you would have 30 feet of linear windows. And so we measure each window. So we'd be like 3 feet plus 3 feet plus 3 feet. So what we have here is there should be a minimum of 30% of linear length on the ground floor windows, and this is just ground floor. And there should be a minimum of 25% of linear length on the ground floor side elevations. And then qualifying windows shall be placed at pedestrian height rather than sneaking a little tiny clear story, rectangular window. We've also, and I don't have it on here, if you have a half-light door or a full-light door, we've counted that as part of the transparency in our general site plan and design review standards. So these are, I don't know if these are the exact right percentage numbers, but that using linear feet is how we do all of our calculations. So for planning staff, whatever the number, it should be a linear foot number.
I have a degree of concern with this 30%. It's kind of like, as a minimum, shall be a minimum. When somebody's laying out the floor plan inside the dwelling unit, sometimes you got walls and sometimes you don't. Not everything is open or type construction today, that if we're doing something, I think we're getting, to a degree, too much detail in that, using 30% as a minimum. It's just, it's like, do we have to have 30%?
Well, do you want, I mean, if they put one big picture window in and then the other side of the whole side of the house is solid, no, I don't think that looks good at all.
I know, but we want some balance, yes.
Well,
But balance, but now we're talking about linear feet of windows being a minimum on the side of a building. And I think that's is asking a lot to say, okay, and now I've got to fit my rooms inside to match my windows that were forced to be put on the outside. And I think it's to a degree intrusive into designing an appropriate flow of a house inside.
Well, we're only talking about the front elevation.
I know, but it's still,
So 30, if you think about it though, 30%,
Of 550 max
I mean-
square feet.
I mean, really, you're only talking about 2 windows.
Well, so 550 is, you're probably maybe a 15-foot by 25-foot building. I can bring this back in November when I can find some examples and we can do actual math. But most likely, if you have once again, the percentage 30 and 25, we can maneuver that. But for the most part, if you have a window on the front and then a 1/1 window and probably a half-light door, you'll generally meet that requirement.
Yeah.
On a side, you want to, the side elevations is always the hard part for new construction, right? There's this goal of trying to have some rhythm of windows, and then people also have to live inside. So when you have a much bigger building, we're trying to put those in. You've now made the building smaller, but what we don't want is 2 side elevations with no windows, right? And just have like front and back, or just one really weird window right on the side. So trying to find a way to not prescribe so specifically, but to have some minimum level of windows on the side elevations, I think is the goal. And
Right.
so I think having that linear foot, once again, is an easy way and clear and objective way to review it. The question is that percentage the right percentage? And one thing I can do in the November meeting is I can bring some examples of past kind of smaller new constructions we've done, and you could kind of see what that percentage is based on a couple past projects. Now, granted, they're going to be a little bit bigger, buildings, but we can see like this one was at 42%, or this one was at 18%. And that might give you a better understanding of what that linear foot.
Right, plus we're also looking at the architecture, right? I mean, we're again, I'm going to keep harping on the historic, properties that we're trying to make it fit into a historic district. So we want to maintain some historic architecture. And all of the homes have 2 good-sized windows and a door, typical. I mean, that's very typical for these types of homes. So, and I think in my house, I have, 2 windows and a full light door. So, I mean, I'm way over that number on the front of my house. And I'd even say, and I'll just throw it out, but I mean, I'd even say we could go even more, even higher, but 30% would be minimum, right?
Yeah, and
So
I can
think
provide
that's
some,
very reasonable.
and I can provide some examples maybe to provide real life, dimensions, if that's helpful for folks in
Yeah.
November.
Well, I think it would be good to see it.
yeah, I would, I think that my 1880 house had 4 windows on the side, 2 windows and a door in the front, and they were doubled. The 2 front windows were doubled, and they're historic 4/4 light. But everything was in balance. The key was just balance. And it's kind of like saying, I want balance, but does 30% as an abstract give me the balance that is aesthetically and architecturally correct? And I'm worried about it's a kind of a raw number there that I think that we can accomplish it. The need for balance and on all sides of a building, correct is important, but I'm just thinking of it, just so abstract to me that I nail it with that one number.
Well, I think Christine's plan sounds good. Bring us some documents, so something to look at.
Yeah.
And that would make the most sense to me.
Okay.
So thank you for doing that.
All right, and then the last item at the bottom is related to doors. So we have the first sentence is a shall sentence. Exterior doors shall be wood, fiberglass, or composite of several materials. And then we have a recommended. Full light, half light, and bungalow style doors are recommended. And then this is the last sentence that Board Member Green did not support. Oval glass and half circle glass paneled doors are not allowed. So that's kind of the half wagon wheel. And then full oval, which, a full oval can be an example of a vernacular, but it may be a little bit in a four-square, but we just don't have a lot of examples of oval. So that's why, once again, like trying to find just like what is a simple door that is compatible without
Right.
being all over the place.
I agree with how it is now. I don't think that a half circle light would be appropriate for the neighborhood. And also, to your point that you've made several times, if they have something, they can come to us, right? And argue that case.
I mean,
So-
yeah, it would be $50. I mean, you say, I really, really want to do this.
Yeah, because I've always wanted like a round door, like a hobbit kind of, And then I think like a circle window in that would be really cool, and not too far off, maybe more of a Tudor, but not too far off, period style of the neighborhood. But I could just come and argue that if that's what
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we don't allow hobbits.
Hobbit.
I know.
I could be wrong.
I'd have to create a whole
I
new
don't think
policy
that's
on
easy
hobbit
to-
houses. But I think,
Not a full circle hobbit, I guess I should.
yeah. I think that the hardest part about policy 13 is our brain is thinking about all the iterations of things that come to the board, and you can look at it contextually and subjectively and balance competing things, and you can't do that with this, right? And so what do you allow as a generally default, this is not going to adversely affect the district, remember? Think of this as almost like little baby infill new construction. So we're looking at the district, we're not looking at an historic resource. So like, what are things where, if it is built as proposed, it's not going to adversely affect the district.
Right.
Yeah, there may be variations that are better designed than not. We see lots of people try, it's amazing that some people can work really hard to find something that's meets all the standard, is not very good looking, but most people follow the standard and design something good looking. We can't
Right.
control everybody, but that's how my brain is, what are the things we do not want? So we have to say that, the
Yeah.
shalls.
No, I think that it would be, I am in favor of keeping that language in because I think it would be inappropriate to have an oval or a half oval, half circle paneled door. I mean, that's more kind of, colonial revival and not really fitting of the neighborhood. And
Agreed.
yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this policy 13, I'll come back in November with examples of linear window transparency, and you all go look around the neighborhood and send me examples of, these are the things I'm seeing when I look at dormers, or wow, I saw this, and this changes the
Yeah.
conversation. So just send me, and I can put it all together and send it to you all.
Great, thank
All
you.
right, Are you guys ready to move on policy 7?
I believe so.
Okay.
Any other questions on 13? All right, let's move on.
All right, so this is new, you haven't seen this. This is taking the policy memo that you wrote this summer and then revising our existing HRB policy for accessory structures. And now the HRB policy this is kind of now a hybrid policy because it's related to designated resources and then also non-designated. So you'll see in yellow on the blue panel, I kind of talk about it's a little bit of a hybrid. You know, most HRB policies are directed toward designated resources. This policy, however, also covers standalone new construction on non-designated resources in the McLaughlin Conservation District. On policy 13 on that blue bar, I specifically explained that this is policy 13 for dwelling units is just for non-designated resources. This is a little bit of a hybrid. So where the areas in yellow is calling out the non-designated resource thresholds. So you'll see this policy applies to construction of new accessory structures on designated resources and on non-designated resources in McLaughlin Conservation District size between 200 and 310 square feet. Because right now, anything under 200 we're just not reviewing it at all. So you're kind of just reviewing 200 to 310.
I wonder if it'd be beneficial to highlight those, you know,
Undo and underline?
Underline or darken them, so
Yeah.
Okay.
bold them maybe so that it's obvious when you're looking at it.
Okay. And then accessory structures that are 200 square feet or smaller on designated resources and 300 square feet or smaller on non-designated resources in the McLaughlin Conservation District shall be reviewed by staff. The criteria should be used the following, and we have, for both designated and non-designated, I have be no higher than 15 feet measured at the midpoint of the top of the peak to the bottom of the eaves, which I don't know if that was previously in. I don't know why I highlighted that. I'm gonna have to go look at previous ones. I apologize.
I know we talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked about
Yeah, but I think the idea is that this is saying it's to both of them.
You know, higher than 15 feet.
I think, 15 feet was previously, so I'll double check.
I still think it should be 18 feet, 15 feet.
18 feet for, now this is 200 to 310 square feet.
Yeah. But in the sense of a vernacular style house, a garage, my roof is a 12-12 pitch, and I'm just thinking, even if this was a 10-12, and at a lesser, it would still, the idea would be that it's, the pitch dictates a lot of that.
Yeah, one thing with, when you have an accessory building on a vernacular, they often were built in the 20th century. So garages were built for cars, right? So you often had a much shorter pitch. Accessory buildings that had a taller pitch were built in the 19th century and probably were more horse barns. So there's always that interesting piece when you're looking at accessory buildings on vernacular. What are we eyeing our 1920s kind of more bungalow garage that was built on that vernacular parcel, or are you looking at, an accessory building that would have been built in the 19th century? So that there's always that interesting piece of like, what is the correct roof pitch for a vernacular accessory building? Now, this is once again not a dwelling and is tapped out at 310 square feet. So it's really generally just either a new garage or a studio in the back.
Yeah, I think that, I think 18 feet would give new meaning to the word peak. 3 extra feet.
Right, and this is measured, remember, again, 15 feet at the midpoint.
And my justification for going that far was that in this day and age, like me, if I'm building a garage, I'm building a garage that I can put solar panels on. And what are the measurements of solar panels to stack them so I get the maximum number of solar panels and still have the edges that around it. And as I like to look at going to electrifying as much as I can go, sometimes you're playing with that face, and if I can create a face that gets maximized solar, and I would love to have the ability to get as many panels on it as I could.
And I think that might be today, but I think if we look out, I think what's happening is they're getting smaller. Panels are getting smaller and more efficient, as opposed to bigger. So I think, I understand what you're saying. I think we're looking at the future here as opposed to the past. And I think now, they're going to be getting smaller, so you'll be able to get more and actually becoming tiles on the roof, right? So I think, I don't know, I just think 15 feet would be enough. And even for solar, I think you'd still have enough, to support a good return on your investment. Because I do think, I've seen it, they are getting smaller.
Yeah, but as they get smaller, the price goes up too.
Well, of course, but, that we don't control.
But anyway, I still would love, I don't know that we're gaining that much with 15, but 18 gives a little bit more flexibility.
One thing I wanted to add, the existing HRB policy 7 actually has no height. I think they just assumed 200 square foot, you just can't get that high. So one thing the board could choose if they want to keep the 15 feet for both designated resources, 200 square feet and below, and non-designated 310 square feet below are at 15 feet, or if you want to have them different. So I combined them and just had a actual height, because HRB policy 7 previously didn't have a height.
And 15 feet, I think, for that small of a space is a lot, in my opinion.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at this. Can you scroll up to show the existing garage right there, right? So what are these 10-foot garage doors, probably? Is that 10 foot at top of garage door? 9. So this is probably what, 13, 14 feet tall at midpoint?
And if you get too beyond that, I think that it starts to look top-heavy, inappropriate, just like we were talking about with the eaves in our last.
So you're thinking farther down to 12 or
No, I don't,
Okay.
I don't mean a lot in a negative way. I mean, I think that's being generous.
Yeah, I think 15.
Do you think it should be less than 15? Knowing that 15 is for the accessory dwelling, and then this is a building, do they just keep the same 15?
I guess it depends on the architecture of the house that you're trying to match. And I mean, you look at if you're in a low roofed craftsman style house that's got a low pitch, and you put up a 18 high.
You're not,
Right.
it would be inappropriate.
Well, that's why it's like the more you grow the height, the
Yeah,
more.
and so this, once again, these are not coming to you. So 310 square foot garages are not coming to you if they meet this policy on non-designated resources.
No, I think if that's like about 14 feet, which it seems about 13, 14 feet, like you said, I mean, another foot isn't going to hugely change the design of the.
Midpoint, I could potentially have the roof face could be 30 feet. If I had long eaves. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I think it just gives people more design freedom, which is nice without being inappropriate to be at 15 feet. I think
Okay.
people appreciate the freedom.
Yeah, I think 15 with fine. I think, personally.
Okay. Any other comments about HRB Policy 7 before we go to design guidelines? Okay. All right, so the design guidelines today are, I feel like a portion of it is a giant run-on sentence. So some of my changes, and I'm going to scroll down to, Melissa, why don't you go to, you'll see the first red line, so if you open up 1740, and then keep scrolling about maybe 4 or 5 pages, you'll start seeing the first red line. It says threshold for review. Okay, so previously, everything was based on the definition of new construction being a 30% or more addition. And so really looking at the policy, it made sense to throw out that as the definition of new construction as the trigger and actually create a new section of the code that actually spells out the threshold for review. And that's taking the items that were in that policy proposal. So looking at height, looking at, I'm gonna have to read it. So looking at alterations to roof height, how to actually look at the 30% and how to define it, having the cap of 700 square feet. So you'll kind of see the threshold for review. We have thresholds for locally designated resources, so that hasn't changed. So though any exterior alterations and additions to locally designated resources, if you meet the HRB policies and you're designated, you stay with Melissa and Jude. If you don't meet the policies, you go in front of the board, or if you're doing any addition, you go to the board if you're designated. So that's just writing our existing policy as an item. So really what we're looking at 2 is alteration additions to non-designated sites and resources located in the conservation district. So if you meet any of the following, alteration that affects the roof of an existing building that change the height of the overall roof more than 4 inches, and any part of the addition is taller than the tallest part of the existing roof structure, which is ridgeline or parapet edge. B, alterations or additions larger than 30% of the original structure size as it was 2 years before the date of application, or a maximum addition of 700 square feet, whichever is smaller. The size of the original structure and the proposed addition shall be measured by their footprint area as defined by our existing code. Proposed new decks that are accessed from the ground floor of an existing building are not counted as part of the 30%. So that's that policy. And then proposed new decks or balconies at upper level larger than 50 square feet when covered or uncovered, that is a trigger for review. And then we have number 3 is just standalone new construction is a threshold for review. So that's our existing standard. So number 2, like item 2 is really just taking the policy and turning it into code. I still think there's some work that needs to be done, and I want to talk to our attorney, but what I wanted to show you is kind of the reorganization. There's now thresholds for review. What happens when you're designated, what happens when you're non-designated, and when you just build standalone new buildings. It's kind of that 3, when you do something in these 3 categories, this is a threshold.
Great.
The next piece, because the previous kind of run-on sentence part of our code of 1740, it kind of had the definition of new construction and then the review process and archaeological monitoring. I just pulled those out so they became their own separate sections. So nothing changes in these, they just have their own code headers. So it talks about the review process, you go in front of the board, you're using our 1750 hearings process and code. This is our existing archaeological monitoring section. And then we renamed 1740-060. Once you take those things out, the archaeological, the process, and the threshold, these are just the review criteria. So this just becomes reworded as the review criteria section. And so you'll see all the strikeouts are what I moved. And this just goes into, here's the criteria for exterior alterations to historic sites. Here's the criteria for construction of new structures. And then we talk about the corridor, the Barlow Road, and that. So that is just becoming now, what are the standards to review each of the subsections? Is how that got moved to. So that's pretty much the way that the policy document works into the revised code language. I'm here if the board wants to talk about anything particular, but just let you know, I wanted to wait to hear from you if there's any direction. And then between now and the November meeting, what I think is a little bit wonky language up here. Can you go back to the threshold section, the 5.3? The 2, subsection 2, which is really just kind of taking almost verbatim what came out of the policy document and laying them out. That probably will be reworded a little bit, just to meet legal clarity. But I'm here if there's anything you want to comment on or you think that's missing before we send to the kind of for legal review.
No, I recall that we really ran through that with Kristen.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested and curious to hear what the attorneys have to say about the wording and everything. But as far as the meat and bones of it and the numbers that we agree on, I mean, I feel like we ran through that pretty.
Yeah, I thought it fit very well.
So that was what I wanted to show you more of how that it's reorganized. And then I'll work with Jude and Melissa. Are we meeting our legal requirements of how we talk about it? And then is it clear? Like the average person reading go, what does that mean? Or I know what that means.
Right.
Because we want the neighborhood to be able to be like, oh no, this project needs to go. And then we want the applicant, we want all parties, right? Neighbors, applicants, historic review board staff to understand what all the words mean. So really next steps, what I see, we have actually, here's a question for you. We have 3 applications this next month, so it's gonna be a busy meeting. We could have a 6 to 7 work session. Probably we would just look at linear foot of the windows and probably dormers, and maybe I can give you an update on any legal review of the code. We are not meeting in December. And then I will at some point find the date that the board can be scheduled for the city commission work session. Probably, I would say it'll probably be February, early March, just knowing where we are in the queue. Just like was presented last summer, this is what our work we've done. And then we'll move forward through the public hearings process, which is since it's a code change, we actually notice everybody in the city. So little postcards will show up in everybody's mailboxes that say, we're changing your code. And then we're also adopting 2 new policies, though that's just a resolution by the city commission. That's not codified. But the changes to the code require a legislative file. Go to a planning commission hearing and they make their recommendations to the city commission. And then they have a first reading and a second reading of an ordinance that changes the code. So that's like that legislative process. And while the board could meet with the planning commission, we can also just once again have 2 representatives come to the hearing to explain both at the planning commission and city commission level.
Okay, great.
That's good.
We got a lot to do.
Do we need to decide now who goes to that meeting,
No.
or should we wait? Okay.
That's, so that's kind of next step. So do your dormer reconnaissance. I'll do my window measuring, and we'll meet back in November for this topic. And there'll be a 6 to 7
2
work
days
session.
before Thanksgiving.
I know.
We'll be busy cooking.
25th.
Well, you only have to soak a turkey for 1 day, so it's okay.
It's
So
the biscuits.
Are we going to have then a work session before the next meeting?
Yes. No.
So we'll have a 6 to 7 work session the Tuesday night. And then at 7 p.m. will be the 3 applications.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so moving on, it looks like we now get to talk about the work plan draft
Okay.
for review.
So this is just let's see, I'm going to go back. Yep, so, yep, I'm sorry, I need to look this one up. Okay, so you'll want to do final, no draft. Okay, so what I heard from the board, and I maybe might need to zoom in. Oh, no, no, you want to look at Biennium work plan draft. So scroll down. Yep, not draft, yep. You may want to zoom in a little bit. What I heard from the board was education was what the CLG grant fund should be used for. So I added, provide HRB members with educational opportunities, apply for the CLG grant. That'll be, if there's federal money sent to Oregon SHPO, it'll be in the spring. And I'll apply for that, and once we get it, we'll kind of lay out what conferences are available, or or webinars, or whatever I can provide the options. What's nice about the CLG grant, you don't have to lay out, we're going to this thing and this thing. You kind of say, we are requesting this amount of money for the following types of educational programs.
That's great.
And then the next piece I wanted to, we always have our yearly legal education by either Carrie Richter or most likely then Missy Ryan. So that's scheduled. We are continuing our compatible change. So the compatible change program and its implementation is on the next work plan, and you'll be able to hopefully check that box off next summer. So number 3 is the code changes. There has always been a request to continue working with all departments to make sure that there's not a drop in conditions of approval to building permit certificate occupancy, and where all the drop points are. We're moving to an online plan review. It's taking a while because things are complicated. But I think we're getting in a better place right now. We include the conditions in our workflow of our planning staff review through building permits. We have been placing them as a red line on the actual PDF of the approved stamp plans. So I think some of the problems in the past have been the owner knew about the conditions of approval, but then forgot to tell their contractor. So now we have the conditions stamped in red on the plans. So we find a white space somewhere and we get them on there in red. So, but I think keep having that conversation of things we're doing and what we're missing. I think one thing that board member Green brought up last time is planner inspections and when do you go out on field, and it's so bespoke. And you have to charge when planners go out. And so we don't want to make applicants have to just arbitrarily get charged for a planning inspection, because is it the footing, is it the framings? There's so many pieces in the puzzle, we can't go out for each one, and we don't want to just make up an arbitrary one. So I don't think I've ever had a great answer of when does it make sense for planning staff to do actual on the ground inspections. Unless, there may be a situation where you just know, like, oh, I got to be out there, and then you will build that into your process. But just as a default, it's not obvious. The other piece that we are doing is we're making sure for larger commercial projects, when we have our pre-construction meetings, we make sure that we are there. Sometimes smaller residential projects don't have pre-construction meetings, but larger ones do. Let's see, policy, let's say 6, public outreach is, once the compatible changes adopted, we want to go out and explain what was just adopted. So maybe looking at some flyers or more communication materials for all the property owners to know we have these new policies and you can build a detached dwelling unit now without going through HRB. So there'll be some good communication materials that can come out of post-adoption. That's number 6. We, under public outreach, we also just have our yearly Ruth Powers Award and our Preservation Month. Number 8, we give out, we have the resurvey. That was one discussion about, is that something that we want to look at, is the resurvey? So I did add that on there. I did note that staff level of effort is kind of medium to high, but it really is more of not that we're doing the resurvey, but this is what you would, so I could do a staff presentation of this is what a resurvey would entail. So it's kind of providing you the background research to determine if you want to move forward as a either refined or a future work plan item.
I thought I heard Board Member Fulkerson say she was going to retire and do that for us.
We'll have that as number 9.
I said, when I retire.
Oh, I misheard you.
So that's what I have based on the conversations. So if there's anything you want to add, we can do it tonight, but it'd be nice to adopt this work plan so we can have it on the HRB's page on the website so people know what you're working on.
Great. Any questions or additions? that
No,
you-
we just need a motion to adopt.
The last thing, and I don't know if it is applicable to this conversation, but in attending the volunteer awards last month, I noticed that the review board was not very equally represented, and would love to implement some sort of plan to get more recognition so the community knows that we're here and, you know, and the good things that we're doing, especially with all of this review policy, compatible change work that's been going on. So anyway.
So maybe number 6, or, number 6, kind of the work you're doing. I can add an amendment to item number 6 under public outreach that really kind of, I don't know the verb, but we want to, what are we saying? We want to,
Well, it seems to me that would be a good article for the Trail News. Who is your HRB, Historic Review Board, and what do they do?
What do they do?
What do they do?
And what have they been working on recently?
okay, yeah.
Like that kind of
Like
stuff.
meet the historic review board, understand
And it
kind
doesn't
of the
have to be like
wins.
individual-
Celebrate the wins, things like that.
Yeah.
Like the
I
words.
think
Or
that
just
may
like
be
we're
good.
here
Excellent.
Yeah,
if you need,
Okay.
and this is what we do. And
I had a neighbor say to me when he found out that I was on the review board, "No, so you're the reason why I can't paint my house purple." And I went, "Oh, no. We don't do that."
No, but why would you put a paint it purple?
I had other things to say, but I had to make a defined statement about what it was first.
Yeah.
yep, so I'll add that to the item 6, public outreach.
Great.
yeah,
That's a good
because it just seems like there's been a lot of work with the compatible change and everything going on recently, and a lot of extra time. It would be nice to, I know we mentioned putting that in the Trail News already, right? As public
Yeah, I mean, we
outreach,
can
but-
do a meet your HRB, we can do a generic meet your HRB board. We have a quarterly hard copy. So sometimes those friendly get to know you that are kind of evergreen, and they can kind of, because we have to submit them so early before printing, so we don't often get good topical stuff, but get to know your board is a great evergreen one.
Right.
Also mention some positive things that they So,
Do you have windows in your house?
We'll get some good quotes from you. We'll
Yeah.
interview you.
yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion with the amendment?
Do you want it tonight?
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
just, I'm sure that if Mr. Green had a comment, I'm sure we would have heard about
Yeah,
it.
we
So-
would.
Well, and you can always amend your adopted
Yeah,
thing.
that's
It's not a problem.
I think that'd be great.
Well, I motion then to adopt the work plan for the 2025 through 2027 as it's written now.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call roll.
All right. Board Member Edgar?
Yes.
Board Member Fulkerson?
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence?
Aye?
Chair Bell?
Aye.
Motion
Great.
carries.
Good job, thank you very much. You got that very concise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, communications.
I don't have one other than I know that there actually is a one-day certified local government maybe workshop. I'm learning more about it somewhere in the valley, so I'll learn more. And it's generally free, so you can head the day. I'm trying to see if Melissa and Jude can head down. You learn a lot of stuff from CLG staff and other board, Landmarks Commission board members. And then we also have the Heritage Conference this spring, and I think we may have some even money in our, maybe in our existing planning fund. I'm not too sure, but we'd like to get a couple of you out if you want to go to, and
Where is it?
I want to say Astoria.
Vegas.
Please, if only. It's usually somewhere in the valley, maybe Astoria, so I can double check here, actually.
Okay, great.
Nice.
We have a new community development director. She
We
has.
do,
Yes,
so
we do.
Kelly Hart, oh, sorry, one thing.
And she's from Lebanon?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
she came, sorry, I'm just trying to
Yeah, go ahead.
find out when the Heritage Conference is.
Reminder too, that those NPI trainings that I referenced last time, the National Preservation Institute trainings, some of those are just like, you can take at your home if you're curious about a subject. They have all kinds of different subject matter.
Yep.
And it's usually about $100, a couple hours.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
And that's something the CLG can do, and I can pay
Right.
for
It's
it,
just a
and just set
cheap-
you up.
Right.
The Heritage Conference is April 29th, 30th, and May 1st and 2nd, and Woodburn.
Woodburn.
So, well, we get closer to that date, I'll let you know about it.
April 29th and through the 30th? is that what you
Yeah, it looks like April 29th through May 2nd. And then, yes, so Kelly Hart is our new community development director. She started in early October. She is away at this moment. She has she's getting her additional master's degree, and has some, is away for a class project. We'll be back, and hopefully she'll be at the meeting in November, or, the meeting in January. So hopefully I get here, you can meet her, she's great.
Good.
She already sent a 6-page letter on housing to the state, so, it's great. I'm looking forward for all the extra help.
That's what we need. Big voices.
So that's all I
Okay.
have.
Anything from the commission up here? I wanted to bring something up, and I should have done it back when we were talking about it originally, but the McLaughlin neighborhood brought up that on drawings, where you could, if we could get, if it's next to, like this particular one we had, when there's a house that close, it would be nice to be able to have that somehow in the drawing, so that can be reviewed.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I'll tell you the reality of working with homeowner applicants and HRB review. We kind of have a goal to get them through in 1 month if we can. The record is still open. Some of these projects are very bespoke. We'd have to really change our code if we wanted something very specific. I think what we try to do is highlight things that we think may be warranted. But if because the record's open, they can amend their document. But we require that the proposals to be to scale. We do, site photos, and it's amazing how sometimes great Google View is for just trying to get those weird angles to try to understand. So I don't have a specific answer about, if we only saw this, we would be fine. We asked for plans to be to scale, and they are. So some of it is, I think, these questions are brought up at the hearing, maybe brought up by staff, and recommendations to maybe bring additional information to identify a concern at some point, because we just don't know what all the issues may be beyond, you've turned in your to-scale drawings.
Right, well, but my point was looking at the packet when we got it, looking at it, reviewing it, and then go out and look at the site, and you have a standalone house looking at it, it's like, oh, that's not bad. And then you go look at it where it's at, in place, and it's like, wow, that's a totally different look, And I don't know if you can force that or not, but it would just be, it makes sense to me that if there's something that's going to be that close, that could be an issue, that it should be brought up to the.
Maybe just asking them to provide an aerial map. something as easy as that.
Well, they have to create the site plan. So, I mean, I guess my question is, they provided a site plan to scale and they provided drawings to scale. What do you think would be needed in either the application packet or updated as part of the staff report that would have resolved the question?
Well, I guess I've heard this before. That's why I bring it up, because I think I've heard it 2 or 3 times, about, buildings in proximity to the applicant's building. And whether it's a downtown structure or not, it gives you a better spatial review of what's actually happening. I don't know the answer to that.
Context.
Yeah, well, we do for commercial, we do require to do a streetscape view. So we did make under new construction a line that says if you're doing a commercial project, you do need to show the properties next door in your kind of street elevation. We had not required that for residential property owners, just because that's a lot to ask to put that together. Kind of what I'm hearing is when projects get close to the property line, maybe in lieu of a more complicated SketchUp of, the neighboring buildings all within the same plane, is maybe much more contextual photographs. What we're hearing because I think, we'd have to change our code to require that for residential, and I would not recommend it because that's putting potential additional cost when it may not be needed or targeted. But we can definitely reach out to property owners when they have something that's kind of really close to the property line. We need a lot more contextual photographs.
Yeah.
I think it would be beneficial for
Yeah.
us, for sure, and to be able to see that. I mean, it's nice but you weren't able to get out to look at the site. So,
Right.
you couldn't really see that.
Right.
And in case some of us don't, didn't.
And don't forget, we can bring up Google Street View as part of the hearing, and I've done that before where we brought it up and we've driven and looked,
Right.
and that's part of the record, as we're at a hearing. So if you need that as part of your analysis, you can ask us to bring that up if
Well,
you
and
need to see that.
I'm thinking about, because this is what I do, and I go out in the field and I take extra photos always to provide me with more information when I go to do my reporting, have something to look back on, but also for a client or whoever is, whoever we're working with. But in the report, we do a topo map, just, for different elevations so someone can get a sense of what they're looking at there, where the nearest river is and blah, blah, blah. And then we do just a simple aerial map, which is Google, essentially. It's Google Earth, and grabbing that. And if that means, there might be, because of this project, certain close properties that are going to be impacted, you throw a polygon down very quick. I mean, this is all in the matter of this could take you someone 10 minutes. Throw a polygon down to the shape of the home and identify what property you're talking about, and then you can actually see aerially how close. Now, you're not going to get, like I was asking her, I said, what are we really working with here? Are we looking at once you raise that roof line, we're looking at 12 inches apart, and she's like, I'm going to have to read measure. It's not going to provide that, but it would give you more of a sense of how close properties
And so
are.
we do show in our OC web maps, we do show the outline of all the structures.
Yeah.
So we should have had, that should be a figure in the staff report.
So could that just be if someone asks about that, could that be screenshotted and shared? How would?
Well, that should be already in the tonight's staff report. Should be the footprints of all the buildings should have been on one of the figures.
Okay.
And it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It was on there, okay. But you're saying,
It shows the outline of the.
you're saying the
actual-
neighborhood, people are asking about it though?
Yeah, well, we're talking about Boston, right? You have some representation of, you have a single house and then there's 2 skyscrapers on each side of it.
Right, well, the question has, it's mostly in the neighborhood that I deal with. But, there was an application many years back where they were adding on a kitchen to the back of the house, and it was and we got a vision, a shot of the front of the house, right? And then we got a side shot, but nothing behind and above. And so, you don't really get to see what the neighbors are seeing.
Right, and we generally recommend that you do need to do kind of site photos of all pertinent elevations. And so I think they were able to do that in this application. They did show from the back, from the rear of the property line back to the rear of the house. You can kind of see. So I think in this one, the applicant did provide a fair amount
Yeah.
of contextual information.
Well, I guess my thought was the drawing itself, just a standalone, it's hard to space.
Yeah, and to ask an applicant to do a streetscape elevation is just a lot for a single family.
Sure, and that's okay. I'm fine with that, as long as we
Okay.
have some other access to be able to look at
Okay.
it.
Well, I'll let Jude and Melissa know, like, really encourage more is more contextual photos
Yeah,
at the side and rear of the house.
well, on that one particularly too, is you had the south view, but you really didn't, all you saw was the south view. You didn't see what the other house would look like from that south view, where if it raised above or went below or whatever. Those are the kind of things that, from every angle, if we can. And photos are great. I'm fine with photos. It doesn't have to be actually in the plan. It'd just be nice to have the photos. That's my concern. Okay.
In appropriateness, always, we're looking at the other buildings or right immediately around. So we want to have some degree of visuals of what is, so that it's not detracting, so that we can legitimately see how it fits
Right.
and in with the rest of the buildings. And I think that's critical criteria.
All right.
Okay. Good.
Great. We'll
Well,
see you all in November at 6 p.m.
all right, very good. We
Okay.
are adjourned. Thank you very much.